Hello everybody, Darren here, and welcome to a brand new series here in Satisfactory. Now for those familiar with me and my channel, you'll know I've had previous series in the game building large structures and giving viewers an in-depth helping hand as to how to best progress, sometimes being a little over-ambitious, and sometimes spending way too long on cosmetics. But not this time. With 1.0 out for a little while now, I've streamed over 100 hours of the game learning all the new mechanics, and I think I've got a cool, approachable way to progressing in the game and not getting burnt out. I hope. So, what's the plan? Well, we're starting in the Dune Desert, somewhere I've actually never played before, and my goal will be to build several sprawling factories in distinct locations. I thought about doing one large mega factory, but sitting in the desert the entire game will be a little bit dull, so instead, we're going to do very large factories, I dare say multiple mega factories connected by roads and rail in each major distinct biome that the game has to offer. Hopefully this will just give some visual variety to the series and make us think a little bit outside the box. I also encourage people to try and build along, as that was a popular thing people did with my previous series. I give out all the production plans, the blueprints, and the save files after each episode completely free, so just go to whatdarrenplays.com/satisfactory and download whatever you want. There's actually a huge amount there already from my previous playthroughs. Now, I'd say that this series will still be quite accessible for beginners, but I won't be going as in-depth and as slow with the placement of every single foundation and all the different kinds of layouts. Having learned from my previous series, unfortunately this just slows everything down way too much, so especially with the bigger builds. So hopefully, with the save files and that stuff, you're going to be able to follow along and see how everything was done still. When it comes to the most tricky topics that people frequently ask questions about the most, like fluid dynamics and trains, they'll be covered more in depth when we first get to them, so fear not. Now, I realize that this video is going to be quite long, quite daunting, probably filter a lot of people straight away, but I just wanted to make sure that we got all of the basics covered in one video and completed the first phase entirely. I show you how to do that in every single conceivable way possible. So please consider liking the video if you enjoyed it. It would really help me out, and consider sharing it with like-minded players too. I especially think if you've got a few friends that you're trying to get into the game, drop them this video and they'll be totally covered on how to progress that first phase within an hour. Also, just wanted to mention that I've got two new YouTube channels. What Darren Builds for city builder type games, and What Darren Plans for strategy games. If you want to see other games from me in the future, please consider subscribing over there or just checking some of those videos out. Oh, and if you're a channel member, you get access to videos a day or two early. So if you're feeling particularly generous, that also really helps. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome, Pioneer, I should say, to the world of Satisfactory, the planet of Massage 2ABB, or something like that. That's right, we're actually all on the same planet, the same map, even. It's all just different starting locations, and we've chosen the Dune Desert. So the first thing to do is get our bearings. So what we can do is press P to open up photo mode, hide the UI with middle mouse button, and then zoom. You see that? That waterfall is going to be our sort of orientation point. It's over to the west, so we need to aim to the east, because you may actually be starting in a slightly different area of the Dune Desert than I am. Often you can start off in the dunes themselves, so look out for that waterfall, and we're going to be aiming for the dead tree, that one right over there. So I've actually happened to start almost exactly where I wanted to, in terms of where we're going to be setting up our base. A few other little tips. Crouch sliding can be an effective way to kind of speed up and get around, but doing a little jump right at the apex of the crouch allows you to get a kind of a boost of speed and also go a little higher than you otherwise would to be able to see different things. Alright, so we're actually right here. I can't believe it, because we did just load in right exactly where we need to be, so that's great. The other thing to do right before we get started is if you press tab and move your mouse over to the right hand side of the screen, you'll notice this vignette. Click it and you have access to your to-do list. I'm going to paste into the public notes a bunch of things that I want to see. And we have the question mark here that lets you know how to format your to-do list going forward. Now, what's the difference between public and private? If you're playing on a server, public, everyone can see. Private, only you can see. So you can tell everyone, you can write down what do you think of everybody. All right, so on the right side of the screen now, we have basic power and mining, biomass production, copper, concrete, iron, and smart plating. That's a lot to take in. First things first, we're going to place down our hub. So right here at the edge of the lake, and just before the dead tree, we've got this kind of open space with a slug in the distance there. Left Alt and left click is how you ping. Left Alt and right click is how you drop a stamp. Holding left Alt allows you to see that stamp. Right clicking the stamp allows you to remove it. Okay, so we're going to build a hub right here. We'll rotate it around so that the biomass burners are facing out towards me. So, let's begin with the concept of power and biomass generally. Now, I have literally nothing in my inventory, so we're just going to have to go grab some biomass while our pod kind of arrives. So we can basically grab any of the leaves and stuff around these trees. What I'm really looking for, though, is wood. So those big kind of spindly sticks that are on the ground, that's what we want. That's going to provide wood. Now, tapping E really fast allows you to kind of just hoover everything up really quickly. But if you're weak-fingered, you can hold E after looking at one piece of grass and then just kind of walk around and automatically grab what's in front of you. But it goes a little bit quicker if you just tap it super fast. So I'll resume once I've gathered enough of this stuff. Alright, so should have enough biomass to get the ball rolling. So we'll head over to our hub and we're going to craft the first bits of leaves into biomass. This will be our first little production chain. So activating the crafting bench, we have biomass leaves down here at the bottom. So leaves becomes biomass. Another little tip, if you just tap spacebar, it'll automatically hold it down. A lot of people try to find ways to hold it down, but you don't have to. You just tap it and it'll stay down. Here at the back, we have two biomass burners. We're going to select our power line / cable and click it, drag it out, click another one and connect it into that. So now both of these burners are on the same network. They're not powered yet. And with the biomass, we're going to feed both of them. However, we're going to divide it up. So holding right click and dragging allows us to split our stack. We'll throw 58 into one and 57 into the other, which pains me greatly. Don't you worry. Now, they actually only burn as much as they need. Right now, we're not connected to anything else, so they're just going to be sitting there for quite a while. So we're going to send this out and connect up and start hooking up our first production chains. So why have I chosen this location? Well, if we scan for copper, we can see that there's some right there. If we scanned for iron, there's two deposits right here. And if we scan for limestone, there's a deposit way out in the distance out there. Again, if we do our little zoom, we can see it. And there's another one behind me, just over there. So we're in a really good, and it's flat. So it's a really great spot next to water, next to wood, biomass, everything we kind of need in this one little area. And this is going to become our central base going forward. Now I'm just going to take out some of the enemies around these deposits and then we'll resume. So obviously take out your Xeno Zapper and get prodding. Alright, so now that I've cleared out the enemies and our deposits are ready to go, we're going to start with our first little bit of automation, which is going to be getting a constructor to make us some biomass automatically. So instead of having to craft it like we just did, we're going to hook up this power pole to this constructor, select the constructor, and then choose biomass wood. So the wood that we picked up, we'll just throw that right in there, and at a very high volume, it gets turned into biomass, which then we're going to use to top up those little burners right there. Now those burners are somewhat temporary as part of the hub building themselves. We can actually build our own burners, which can have an input, so they actually receive something going in automatically, whereas these have to be manually hand-fed. The other benefit of this is that it produces 30 megawatts of power, whereas these two just provide 20 each. But for now, we're a little bit tight on materials, so I don't mind just letting this fill up twice each and then just making sure that these are totally full. Now in the meantime, while we wait for that to kind of produce, I just want to talk through what we're doing here in the hub. So the hub, this is our main point of progression. Tier 0 has been completed for us, of course, because we skipped the tutorial. And we're going to start with base building, logistics, and field research, and then tier 2, all of these different components. We're going to get it all done today, nice and quick like, including building the space elevator, which allows us then to progress to tier 3 and 4. So to start off, we're going to actually begin with logistics. This will allow us to split belts, merge belts, lift them, raise them, and also show us the efficiency of certain buildings. So we need 150 plates, 150 iron rods, and 300 wire. So let's select that and begin. Now, we don't want to feed this stuff just yet. It's just good to have it in the top right to know what we're working towards. And again, we'll just fill up the power with as much of this stuff as they can handle right now. Right, so I've actually got a little bit more than I need, which is great. I'll build one biomass burner and connect it to the same network. So we'll just pop it somewhere here for now. Build another power line just moving a little further out. And then connect that one to this. And then we'll just manually feed this as well with some biofuel or biomass. And that will keep us going for quite a while. Okay, so let's get started with the first bit of building. Our first production chain is going to be a very simple copper chain. So we'll start with the production category, getting the miner, and aiming it exactly north. We want to go dead straight north with where that's aiming. Now, because we don't have splitting and anything else yet, we're just going to do one smelter. So what we can do here is hold control to line it up with that building. It'll snap and align. If you press H, you can then lock it in place and look around it to allow you make sure that your orientation is correct. We'll commit to that. We'll choose our belt, connect the two together. We'll look at this, get our power line, drag it out, connect these two together, and bring the power line over to there. Right, so that's now hooked up. So that's going to produce copper ore for us. We're now going to select smelting into copper ingots. It's going to make 30 per minute, but I wouldn't worry about the numbers just yet. And then we'll build one constructor here at a sort of 90-degree angle from where we just built. Roughly speaking, it should be fine. And then we'll get our belt and connect it in. Now, if you press R, you can actually get a straight belt, so it'll do automatic kind of 90-degree turns. So we'll go with that. If you're not happy with it, or sometimes that doesn't work, you can just press R again, obviously, and get back to the default belt. Now, with this building, we're going to be making wire. So wire requires copper ingots. So obviously, we just made copper ingots, and they're rolling in. We need to connect this to power, and boom, we have automated making wire. Very simple. The next thing is going to be very similar to this, but just doing iron instead. So we're going to hover over our deposit, rotate this around so that's facing kind of towards me. You want it to face east. So I just want it to be going straight out into that kind of flat area that we just had a look at. So basically there. And again, we'll build a smelter. We'll hold control. I'm actually lacking wire already. Well, that's great, isn't it? Because we can just get some right out of here. All right, so now after grabbing the wire, we can just bring this kind of straight out. And when you lock it in place, you can actually nudge it with the arrow keys. So I'm just going to nudge it forward. Just want to give it a bit of distance. And then we'll connect that belt in as well. Cool. We'll select iron ingot this time. Make sure these are hooked up to power. So we'll get our power line, select one there, connect that in. And we'll just drag that all the way back over to one of its buddies. Okay, so that should be powered now. Iron ore is rolling, and it will be smelting. We just now need to provide one more constructor. Holding control again, and we'll give it a decent amount of distance because things are going to go between these in the future. And we'll connect that back. I'll just join that in there for now. Alright, so this is going to be making iron rod. As we do, of course, need plate, rod, and wire. We want the rod to be up here, though. That's part of the plan. Now, there is one more deposit just really close by. It's just on the crest of this hill here, and it's another iron deposit, which I've prepared by removing the enemies and the kind of top deposit. We'll just grab this. Of course, looking at a building and pressing middle mouse click allows you to copy the building that you're looking at. So we'll just get another miner there. Get another smelter to kind of go in front of it. Again, I've run out of wire, so I'm just going to go grab that wire again very quickly. Alright, so placing another smelter down. Now that we have the wire, we can grab our belt, bring it out to the side so we don't want it clipping through the ground, and just bring it straight down like that. Now, we'll need to connect this to power, but we have maxed out the amount of power lines on this line. So what we can do is, if we just press number 1, get our power pole out, look at one of the cables until it flashes red, click it, and then we can extend it out this way. So you can see that it's actually planning on, creating an extension point between the two. I'll just join that to that. And there we go. We are now powered yet again. A bit of a funky looking belt, but we'll build a nice lift once we unlock it soon enough. Connect this up to power also. Iron ingot, of course. We'll get another constructor, the final constructor of the day. It needs, or for the moment, it needs cable. So we'll just build a little crafting bench, scroll down to cable. It takes in wire, so we're making wire. Now we can make cable from that in our crafting bench. And with about 20, we should be good to go for a little while. We'll just get that constructor again, holding control, giving it some distance, and joining the two together. This now is going to be making iron plates. So, we've now just automated a little bit of everything that we require to get the logistics milestone done. So that's going to be iron plates, iron rods, and wire. So, taking out the dismantle tool actually allows you to see into a machine. We can see that there's 42 ingots and 40 rods in there, building up obviously over time. So we can just go up to these and take them out. I don't want to build storage just yet. We'll do that when we've kind of actually split the chains and balanced them, which we have not done yet. In the meantime, while this is all operating, we're going to go for a little wander. So follow me, if you will. Here at the back of our hub, we can see that there's a blue slug. We want to pick that up. We also want to kill this enemy that's next to it. Alright, so having just taken the blue slug, we're going to be aiming right there towards that hard drive site. Hard drives are what we can use to unlock alternate recipes in the game and advance some other kind of progression things that we'll talk about later. We also want to head towards that. That is a Mercer sphere. We're going to need lots of those. So let's get going. Now, there are hazardous kind of fauna and flora around here, so we want to just run past them, grab this. Once we grab it, this is something I do, you don't have to do this. Alt, right click, and drop a little question mark there. Then when we press Alt, we can see that we've already been here and we've gotten that one. Why would you ever need to see that? Purely only if you're to kind of build a radar tower. Hang on, I'm just going to have to take this out. There we go. If you ever build a radar tower, it'll kind of tell you how many collectibles are remaining in the area. And you might wonder where they are, because it won't tell you specifically. But if you kind of marked the areas you've been to already, then you just kind of generally know that it won't be in that area for now. So this area is going to be great. We're going to have to be quick here. When I pick up lots of loose bits of loot around here. So there was just some concrete, there's some cable. If we go a little further back, we can actually see there's wire right here as well. If you're getting low on health like me, it might be worth trying to scavenge some and eat some. So I'm going to go looking for some berries or something as well really quickly. Alright, so back at the hard drive site, there was actually some reinforced iron plate right there. There's a little bit of cable, there's some iron rods, and a little bit of concrete. So using all of those will allow us to advance a bit quicker, and there's also rotors right here. So that's going to be great to help us just kind of move through things a bit quicker. Now right up here, there is a summer sloop. We want to go grab that as well. Alright, so there we go, our very first summer sloop. And similar to the marker I left before, I'm going to leave a little explosion marker on this one. Alright, I'm going to head back to base now, picking up anything I can on the way, and then we should be able to advance our milestone. Alright, so back at base, we want to collect from all of our machines. There's 200 wire there, so we've got enough for that. We've already got 103 rods here, so we should have enough for that milestone. And then down here, there's 138 plate. Hopefully we've got enough for 150. Let's just see. Yes. Alright, so that's the logistics milestone ready to go. Alright, here we are at the hub. Just throw in our iron plate, our iron rod, and our wire. Boom. Excellent. Now we've unlocked logistics, basically. Now we can split belts and divide things up and make sure machines run at 100% efficiency, which is what it's all about. Alright, so that basically completes the first thing on my to-do list, which was basic power and mining. That is now done. The next thing is going to be biomass production. So this is a kind of simple form of it. We're going to make it last a little bit longer. So what we're going to need is 8 or 6 of these biomass burners. So what we can do to kind of measure out if we have enough to do that is go to our power tab and click this little plus sign. This will add it to the to-do list on the right-hand side. So if we say that we want 6 of them, these are the required materials to do so. So we need a little bit more wire and a little bit more iron plates. I'm just going to wait till I get that, and then we'll build these out. Alright, so having gotten all the items I want, I'm just going to now remove the constructor. We don't need that anymore. We'll keep that biomass there just for a moment. I'm going to copy it, build it just somewhere over here, aim it forward, and then holding control will put down another one aligned perfectly with that one, and another one then again. So that's 3 on one side. Now we want to get 3 on the other side. We can hold control again, lock it in place, and then nudge it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 7 is the max amount unless you're using a mod. So I'm just going to place that one down. Now 8 spaces is actually 1 full foundation's width, so I'm just going to nudge this one over 1, and that'll be the full 8 between them. I'm just going to get rid of the original one, and I'll place this one down again aligned. So just to reiterate that, it basically means that they're 8 meters apart. Every nudge is 1 meter. You don't have to do that, but I just think it makes things a little easier. Next thing, we'll open up our logistics tab. We'll scroll down now to our merger and splitter. So on the hotbar, if we just hotkey one of these down there, we can use them much more quickly. So I'm going to make this number 4, I'm going to make the merger number 5, I'm going to make the lift number 6. Oh yeah, and a quick tip, if you take out something like a splitter or a merger or a belt even, actually anything that has multiple things in the same category, you can then press E to cycle through them, or hold E to see everything in that category. Right now, as we haven't unlocked much, we can only see these 2. Right, so aiming between these biomass burners and holding control, we can kind of line up. Somewhere in the center would be ideal, and we want to put down 3 of these. So this is going to be creating our first manifold. Alright, so the splitters are in place. Now we can get our storage container, holding control, make sure it's aligned quite nicely, and now we can just dump our biomass into here. Right, so by placing it into the storage container, it can now roll along a belt that will send into the first splitter. And then we'll send it in on the right, send it in on the left, send it forward, and just do that the entire way down, sort of like a little rib cage. This is called a manifold. We're feeding the first group first, and then the second group, and then the third group. So these are splitters. You have to think of it like they split evenly no matter what. So if you had 100 moving along here, it'd be 33 would go that way, 33 would go that way, and the other 33 would go here. Then from here, it would split 11, 11, 11, and so on and so forth. However, when this gets backed up and this gets backed up, the rest will make its way out there, provided the belt speed can carry it. So manifold lines rely on the first machines getting full to kind of feed the next ones down, and so on and so forth. Alright, so we just need to hook these up to power next. So the way we'll do that is we'll just build power lines, connecting all four. And just make sure everything is attached and connected. Alright, so now that the sun has come up, I think we can have a bit of a clearer picture of what's going on here. So we've got 6 biomass burners capable of 30 megawatts of production each, being fed in a manifold style by 3 splitters. I've disconnected now the original 2 burners and removed the extra burner that I built over here. So this network now exists all on its own. So the capacity of the network is 180 megawatts. That's because we have 6 times 30 burners. The max consumption of our network is the total potential. If all of our machines were to turn on suddenly and draw as much power as possible, they would consume 39 megawatts. But instead, they're currently fluctuating, consuming 12, 15, 20, whatever. And that's because machines are turning on and off because they're not currently balanced. So I want to balance these machines. You don't have to, but it creates a more stable power line and predictable power network, so you're not worried about underproducing, overproducing, whatever the case might be. It also guarantees that what you're making is what you're making. It's not falling short of any particular target. Alright, so that's basically how this works. We'll check it again when we start balancing this out, just to show you kind of how that network changes. Okay, so that's going to be biomass production pretty much done, although I would say we could add one more little quality of life feature to it. So we want to automate the biomass production yet again. So now what we can do is have a constructor on this side, which will do biomass wood, and a constructor on this side, which will do biomass leaves. And they'll both aim in here. So we'll build our first merger and aim it straight in there. And then we'll select our straight belt that can go into either one of these. And that's basically it. We can then just bring this straight in. Now, we could build containers at the back of each of these. I don't think I need to do that. We'll just select this one to be leaves. So we'll always drop any leaves we have into this one. And in this one, we'll drop any wood that we have in. So I've got 136 right now. It's usually going to be wood. Sometimes I'll accidentally pick up some leaves, basically. Now, one last thing to mention is you might be wondering why I did 6. Why did I choose that number specifically? Well, the Mark 1 belt can carry 60 items per minute. And each of these consumes 10 per minute. So if we check the machine, we can see that it's consuming 10 biomass per minute. And I think that can actually slow down because it has variable power, but never mind that. Just assume it's 10 per minute. And we're feeding them out of this container on a 60 belt, which means 60 is rolling along here. And then it's just being split up manifold style, but it will democratize and give everything 10 per minute, basically. Now, we're not quite fully automated, right? We do have to drop in the wood. But what we're getting out is 300 per minute. So it's okay that this kind of ramps up and slows down. For now, it'll be totally fine. Next thing is the copper chain. So let's begin. So let's balance our first production chain proper. So out of here, we're making 60 per minute. Inside of the smelter, it's consuming 30 per minute. So we can obviously build a second one of these. So let's just do another one. I might have to move this cable, actually. So just disconnect this for a moment. Move this a bit further over this way. Get a second smelter, rotate it around, line it up with its buddy, and then just on this belt, if we look at the belt, we can just put down a splitter. And now we're splitting evenly, 60 into 30 and 30, going into 2 machines. I'll just bring this to here, connect this back up, and this one and that one. Don't forget to reassign it to copper. Now, out of here is going to be 30 ingots per minute. We're getting 30 ingots out of this one per minute, and it's rolling into here. But this is only consuming 15, which is a great problem to have. So what we'll do is, it's going to get a little messy, but we'll just build another constructor. Maybe right about here. Just trying to get ahead of that rock, basically. I'll just get rid of these two for now. This one for now. So we'll build it again right there. Okay, so now we'll get a splitter. And we'll just split somewhere in the middle of these guys. Holding control so we can line up. So that goes in there. This one can just go in there. And this one can go in there. So now we're splitting again. 30 to 15, 15, and that's what they're both going to be consuming. Again, don't forget to set the recipe. We want these both to be making wire. And of course, they need to have power. So we'll put down a power pole, connect both of them, and bring that back. All right, now we're going to do another 2 more. 1 and 2. Getting a little close to what I built there, but that should still be okay. Going to go with another splitter. This time we'll aim at something like this. Get a straight belt to go into here, and I'm a bit low on iron plates. But fear not, this place has been running for a little while, so we should be able to gather what we need. All right, I'm back. So we can bring that straight belt to the input. There's our first output and our second output. Again, build another power pole, and we may need to create a secondary pole right here. The poles are going to get kind of messy, but that's okay. We'll clean all of this up once we get foundations somewhere in the future. Alright, so now we just need to assign again to wire and to wire. Alright, so let's just have a look at the chain now. So we have 60 per minute rolling out of here. It's been split, so 30 and then 30. That creates 30 each as well. We split it again for 15 and 15, and then 15 and 15. And then each of these is consuming 15 per minute. So this should give us a 100% perfectly balanced machine. Now, it's obviously building up with wire, so what we'll have to do is send one of these into a container. So just holding control again will allow us to lock in. So these two can merge up together and they can go in there. So what we can do is just have a look at how much they make. It makes 30 per minute, that's 30 per minute. Our max belt is 60 per minute, so we should be okay, and we should never see a gap on this belt because it's 2 30s merging onto a 60, so there's no room for anything else. So now we're making 60 wire per minute. Here, we're going to do something similar, but different. We're going to grab a constructor and move a bit further out. And then we're going to set this to cable. Now, cable requires 60 per minute. So, we'll take another merger again here, rotate that around so the output is facing the correct way. We'll send our 30 cable in one side, 30 in another to combine it to make 60, 60 in. And that will now make 30 cable per minute. It's as easy as that. We'll just hook it up to power. And, of course, we want that to go into a container as well, so it can be easily collected. And there we go. And that's our copper chain now completely done. That is one copper node making both wire and cable. We're now making wire at 60 per minute and cable at 30 per minute. Okay, so now that that's done, the next thing we're going to do is concrete. So it's something I've been neglecting for a while. Make sure you empty out your machines that we've left there idling in the background. You want to clear them so that you're constantly filling up the iron rod and the iron plate. Also, pick up as much of this as you can. It's straight up wood, so it's always good to have. And here's our deposit here. So this is kind of an interesting deposit. We haven't really looked at this yet. This is a pure node. So the purity of the node means how much you get out. So the other ones were normal, which is why we get 60 per minute, but this being pure means we get 120 per minute. So it makes limestone, we want to make concrete. So if we search concrete, so if you press N, you can open up the quick search bar. We can have a look at concrete. It takes 45 per minute to make 15 per minute. So 45 in, 15 out. Another way of opening up that screen is pressing O, and you can search up here, or you can look at various different things that are in the game. All right, so because that number is so high, we don't have a belt that can actually get this out yet. So we'll just build, assuming that we can't really do that right now, we're just knowing that we can't. We'll build 2 constructors, one here and another one here, and we'll leave room for a third, because we'll use a third eventually. For now, though, we'll just build a splitter. I can actually probably lay it on top of its friend there, and just aim that straight in there, aim that one straight in there, and then this one in here. Apologies for the floatiness of it, but don't worry, it's all being suspended by the belts, if you want some logic to it. And then we'll just drag a power pole to maybe there, make sure that these guys are connected, and start dragging that back. Now, didn't set the recipes of these yet, so that's going to be concrete and concrete. Now, similarly, we want these to then merge back up to become a storage container, or to go into a storage container. Like so. See if I've lined that up well enough. Probably not. It seems like it's just about okay. Cool. Alright, so when we power this, we should now be making about 20 concrete per minute. It's going to fluctuate a little bit because we can only get 60 out on the belt, and they require 45 each. But still, something is better than nothing, so we'll just leave that on in the background until we can fully stabilize it and make it run at 120 per minute, which we'll do. Alright, so that power is now gone all the way back, and if we check the power line, we can see that the max consumption just jumped a little bit, because now a new miner is hooked up, and a couple of extra constructors. But that's basically concrete done. The next thing is going to be the iron chains. So, this is our first one, making iron rods. We're going to continue this now. So again, looking at the numbers, we've got 60 per minute. It's getting backed up because it can't get out quick enough. We're going to build a second constructor on the side here, a third one on the side here, and a fourth one on this side. Ah, I'm missing cable. That's okay. We now make cable, so we'll just go grab some. Right, so got my cable. We'll just build this one again to the side. Okay, so these are all going to be doing iron rod. So we'll just select that for each one. Another little tip, if you're curious, is you can click it. You can actually click copy settings and then paste them onto a building, or just look at the building, press Ctrl-C to copy it, and then paste it. We'll be doing that a lot later when we actually fine-tune the machines to run at different clock speeds. Okay, so the way this basically works is they require 15 ingots per minute to make 15 rods per minute. So very similar to what we've done before is we'll now just look at this belt, place down a splitter, place down a belt, connect it in on a nice straight curve and let that roll in. Obviously power isn't hooked up just yet. We'll get another splitter and aim it this way. Do the very same thing with these two, right? So that's going to go straight in there. This one's going to go straight in here. We'll have a smelter now that can line up with that splitter. That can go in there. And then we're going to do a splitter somewhere here. Now, nothing's hooked up to power just yet, so we'll just kind of get that going. So there's power for those guys. And we'll just build... disconnect that one maybe just for a second and just build some fresh power lines here, here, and here. So the outside ones can connect to the power pole, and the central pole can be the sort of connection pole. Okay, and now they're all hooked up. Alright, we'll just climb up so we can get a little bit of a bird's eye view on this situation. So basically, 60 is rolling out. It's going into smelter A and then B, 30 and 30 each after being split. We're then splitting that again, which is then going 15, 15, 15, and 15 between the four. Now, these are all going to be merged up onto a single line. So we'll build one merger here, holding control, try to just roughly line them up. Another one there. Another one there. And another one there. So they're all aiming away from me to the right of the machine. I'll just connect these all together. Okay, so our iron rods are in place, so I'm going to grab a splitter this time and just build a splitter fairly close by, just about there. And I'm going to build 3 constructors making screws. So we'll just bring the belts into each one, just like so. And we'll just connect this in. So there goes our merged line of 60 going in and then being split, excuse me, evenly 3 ways between 3 machines. They're going to be making screws, which only need 10 per minute. So we're actually sending in far more than we need. But that's by design. Right, so just very quickly, there's our 4 iron rods together. They all merge up and then they split evenly between these 3 constructors, which are now making screws en masse. And they'll make them pretty quickly, 120 per minute, because there's 3 machines running at 40 per minute. And they'll oversupply iron rods as well. They'll get backed up. So they should be totally fine for quite a while. Alright, so here at the hub, we can now have a look at some other milestones. We've got base building. So 200 concrete, 100 iron plate, and 100 iron rod. Now that we've set up concrete, we should be able to do this easily enough. We also picked up concrete out in the wild earlier, so use that. So I'm just going to go wait or go fetch the concrete that's probably waiting in store for me now. Alright, so concrete is done. Let's feed it in. So just taking a quick look at it, that's now going to provide us with foundations, with a lookout tower, ramps, walls, and all sorts of things. Now we're not going to actually build any structures probably until the next episode. Next up is going to be field research. So that's going to be screws, plates, and wire. Basically, I've actually already got all this stuff, but we do have to wait 1:40 for the pod to return before we can send it off. Once we do that, then we're going to go out exploring again. Alright, so just pulling out the screws out of these machines. We've got plenty, more than enough to advance the next milestone. I've also got enough iron plates already, so I'm just going to make my way back. The pod has arrived. Alright, so here we are, field research. So just really quickly, the reason we want to do this, extra inventory, personal box, object scanner, the MAM, and a map. Alright, we'll feed all of these in, and boom. Okay, so things have just gotten quite interesting. So what we want to do now is go out exploring a little bit before we finish off the iron chain. Alright, so now that we've actually got the MAM and a map, we can now go exploring. So while we're heading out to a variety of locations, the first being that place right in front of me here, so we're basically aiming towards this shadow on the map, right? So we're going to be going there to get a hard drive. As you're heading out there, you're going to find little deposits on the ground. Crack them open. What you need to find is Caterium, raw quartz, and sulfur. There's loads of these in the desert. This is a Caterium one right here, and once you start grabbing it, you'll be able to advance certain things in the MAM. So I can't guarantee you're going to find the same ones as me, but there's plenty around, and they're all kind of random. So there's a quartz one right there. It's pink, and the sulfur is going to be kind of a deep yellow one. Is another one and another one, you know, so you should be able to find them no problem. If not, it's okay. I'll tell you where they are permanently, where they aren't random, but for now, it's just good to kind of get them and advance the MAM a little bit. Right, so there's the sulfur one. I literally just found them all like right around each other, and I've loaded into this area a few times, and they're always available, so hopefully you'll be able to find a little bit of everything you need. Alright, so let's begin our parkour. So you need iron rods for this one. I don't think you need very many, and it should be easy enough to climb up without any gear, because we don't have blade runners or anything else yet. So just climb up the little bits of stone here, and we should arrive at this little thing. Allows us to walk up, get over this bit, and if we do a little jump, there we go, and upsy daisy, and up we go. Right. This will get us up to the very top. Here we have modular frames, awesome. Reinforced iron plate again, which allows us to build more constructors. Some rotors, which will allow us to build assemblers a little bit later. And more iron plates. Awesome. Now we can open this up. If you have 5 rods, you're allowed to open this and then grab yourself a hard drive. Nice tasty hard drive. Ooh, and some concrete too. Okay, so what I'd like to do, if I could stand on this, which I apparently can't, is just aim at the top of this and then press Alt right click and then drop the little briefcase stamp. So now when I'm far away from this and I'm like, did I get that one? I'll just press Alt and I'll see the little briefcase on top of it that lets me know you've already gotten it, so you don't have to worry about it. Later when we get radar towers, it'll kind of tell us as well. So that's going to be it for this one. We're going to go and do the other ones as well in due time, but for now we'll just head back down and get back to base. Alrighty, so back at base we can now build the MAMs, the molecular analysis machine, or MAMI, as I like to call her. So in here we can drop in that hard drive, but first we want to go through some of the other chains. So by now you should have fought a spitter, a hatcher, and a hog. The spider we'll find a little bit later, or stinger as they're called in this game. So we just want to advance these super quick. You just have to hand in a little bit of the remains each. Then the next one will be the Caterium chain. Like I said, if you found Caterium, then you can kind of advance this just a little bit. And then we can scan for Caterium so we can just find it more naturally. Now, the quartz chain is actually quite important. So I've just dropped in our 10. I've got enough now where I can get the next thing over, which is silica and some new shop products, which we'll talk about later. Ultimately, we want to get down to blade runners. Now, we found enough modular frames. We just need to find a little bit more silica, which we can do easily enough. And then sulfur will be the last one. This allows us to now scan for quartz, Caterium, and sulfur in the area. So if you don't want to look things up online, you just want to play true to the game, you should be able to find it quite easily. Alien technology. So we also found a summer sloop, so we can throw that in as well. We can now scan for those with the object scanner. And similarly, we can now scan for these with the object scanner, the Mercer spheres. These are going to be super important for us early on. For the power slugs, similar thing. We'll drop one in right now, and then we can make power shards out of them. We'll talk about them soon. And we can get overclocking. So we need to make 1 power shard. So let's just do that very quickly. You unlock this recipe when you've just advanced that one. So we'll make these 2, whatever. And then we'll throw them back in. I can actually do this as well. So we could scan for slugs, but it's kind of pointless. We'll just keep the materials for now. Let's do this one. Overclocking. Super important. We'll talk about why soon. Great. Alright, now we can throw in the hard drive. Alright, so you throw in that hard drive. Now there's a 10-minute cooldown before we find out what we got. And you can actually just take this with you, and it'll just work in the background, so no problem there. But we're going to go a little further now, and we're going to drag power with us. So let's just grab a power line and bring it to here. And we're going to head back out to that original location that we saw a while ago. So if we check our power lines just very quickly, we can see that our max consumption is 108, our max capacity is 180, and to open up that hard drive site we saw earlier, you need 70 free power, 70 megawatts of power free. So we just about have that. So we'll head out, crack that open then, and then we can disconnect it. You don't need it after the fact. Alright, and just slam it right in there. Alright, we'll just open this, take out the hard drive, and I'll just do the same thing I did before, which is mark the top of it so that I know I've gotten it, although I'm fairly certain I won't get confused about that one, but you never know. Alright, cool. Let's get out of here. So, the next place I'm going to go is we're going to head sort of northwest. So mostly north, but slightly to the west. And this one's going to be a pretty dangerous one, so make sure if you feel like maybe you're a little worried about the game or you're maybe not that good, bring some berries or nuts or something with you. And we're aiming for this thing right here, okay? Alright, so at the mouth of this rock arch, there's actually a tiny little slit that we can slide into. And slide all the way down into a little den of spiders. So if you're kind of a little squeamish or a little afraid of spiders, there's arachnophobia mode in the game. We can also pick up some bacon for the first time. And it could be worth killing a couple of those spiders if you want to advance that other thing. But I'm here for the Mercer-sphere, so we'll just quickly collect that. Drop our little question mark just to let us know that we were here. And ignore the crawling sounds and then just make our way back out. So you can't go out the same way you came in. So we'll just head up this way. Crouch then underneath and slide right on out. Now, we're still going to head north. We're basically now going to aim for this plateau up here. So pretty much straight north from that exit. Alright, here we are. We're down at the little plateau, so we'll make our way down just this way nice and easy like. Now, there's going to be a fat hog down here. He's going to cause us a bit of trouble. I don't think we can see him just yet, but if you notice from this distance, we can see that there's steel beams, there's stators, more reinforced iron plate, encased industrial beams. There's good items, basically, and then that hard drive is going to be pretty easy to get. You don't have to actually pay anything to unlock it. So as long as you got enough room in your inventory, give this a crack, see if you can run down quickly, avoid the hog, or take him out if you feel brave enough. And, yeah, get these items and get out of here. The one item you'll need, more than anything, is the steel. So try and get that. Alright, that's kind of perfect. Now we can just open this. Take that out. Say that we got it. Of course, have to do that. And then just quickly run around and grab all this stuff that he's protecting. He also launches rocks, by the way. Alright, I think I got everything, actually. It wasn't too bad. Think so. Alright. See you, hog. Ow. The hell? Now, we're almost done, but there's one more hard drive that I'd like to get, and it's right here. So I'm basically just southwest of the one where we were battling the hog on the edge of the cliff. This one requires steel beams to open, which is why I wanted to get those steel beams. So very similar to the first one I think we were at, that we actually opened. We can just kind of parkour our way up here, grab some of the nice resources that have been left for us, make a leap across. We've got rotors for days now. Should be no problem to advance a bunch of things. And then here at the top, boom. So that should be 4 hard drives in total, I think, that we're after grabbing. Now, there's also, just on the other plateau, it's kind of tough to see, but some medicinal inhalers. And then just down below us, encased industrial beams yet again. And I think that might be it. But, you know, in case I missed something, have a good look around, see if you can grab anything else. And we'll start making our way back now. Oh yeah, it's worth mentioning, if you head almost exactly southeast back to base, you'll encounter another summer sloop just sitting there in the sand. Alright, the sun is setting on my beautiful base here, so we're just going to have a quick look at what we picked up in the map, or for the hard drive I mean. So, a hard drive scan has been completed. If we check our library, we now have iron wire and Caterium wire. Iron wire is super good. It means that from regular iron ingots, we can get wire out of it, so definitely going to select that. Now, the other ones, we could just roll these in. I've got 3 more, so I'm just going to keep putting them in every 10 minutes or so, and we'll see what we get. I'll leave this machine here, actually. Let's decide on what the next milestone will be. We've completed Tier 1, so now it's Tier 2, part assembly. We need... Those 2 are done already. I'll just pick up some more screws and some iron plates. So I'll be back in a moment, and we'll advance this one. Alright, throwing in the rest of the iron plates, we are good to do part assembly. So if we just have another quick look at what we just got, we basically unlocked assemblers. They take in 2 things and put out 1 thing. We now can make copper sheets. We actually found a bunch. We can make rotors. We also found a bunch. Modular frames and smart plating. Next up, obstacle clearing. Super easy. In fact, we could just do it immediately, but again, we have to wait for the pod to come back in about 6 minutes. So the next thing we're going to do is tap the iron chains. Alright, it's nighttime again, but we can also now build a lookout tower. So just going to place one down around here. I'm at the second miner where we're making our iron plates, and we'll just climb up this, get a bird's eye view of the situation, and then kind of lay out what we're going to do. So an iron plate machine. I never looked at it, right? But it's not as clean as what we've been dealing with before. 30 ingots go in, but 20 iron comes out. So we'll build another one right next to it. Just like so. And then we need to do another smelter in line with it, roughly there. Connect that in, and then give it a splitter. And then obviously give them power. Like so. Alright, so that's balanced that chain out. Now our 60 out is being split evenly between 2 smelters. We obviously have to assign it though, of course. So we'll assign this again to iron ingots, and we'll assign this to iron plate. So now we're going to get into a little bit more complicated splittery. That's right, splittery. So we're going to destroy these 3. We're going to take off everything they got. So it's filling my inventory with screws and rods and things, and that's totally fine. We'll leave the splitter in place here and just remove that as well. Alright, so what we're aiming to make is rotors. Okay, so rotors require iron rods and screws. And then, of course, we want to make smart plating, which requires reinforced iron plates. Now, to make reinforced iron plates, we need screws and iron plates. So here's our iron rod. Here's our iron plate. And to make screws, we need those iron rods in the first place. So the way I'm going to balance the numbers... Well, I guess we'll just do it and then talk it through. So basically, we need 4 constructors for these guys, but they need to be just a little further out. So let's go maybe here. 1. Of course, I'm in the way now, but we'll just hop down then. 2. 3. And 4. So there's 4 constructors. Now, why 4? Because they take 10 each. 10 each. We're making 60 iron rods per minute. So this can roll straight into somewhere like here. I'll connect that one in there. And this one in there. Okay, so that's... If you think of a splitter splitting 3 ways evenly, it's 60 in, so it's 20, 20, and 20 out. So 20 is going to roll into these 2. And then split for 10 and 10. And we're going to do the same over here. So 20 is going to roll along into this one, and then split for 10 and 10. Now, obviously, you have to give this all power. So we'll just give them basically 3 poles. Connect that into that. Now, that should not happen. A fuse is blown. We're going to go back and check what's going on. Oh, I know what's happened. I never disconnected the power line that was connected to the hard drive, so we've been consuming like way more than we need to. That's a bit of a silly mistake on my part. We'll just restart it now. Yeah, so we just dropped 70 megawatts because it was just connected to a hard drive site that was already opened and emptied, but you know, I forgot to disconnect it. Important to remember that. Disconnect those. Alright, so these are now connected again. We need to just assign them to be screws. So screws are going in. Screws going in, and our freighter is back now as well, which is good. Alright, so now we're doing 4, 8, 12, 16. 160 screws per minute at the moment, anyway. Alright, now that the sun has come back up, we can kind of see what's going on again. So basically, our line of 60 rods ends here, it splits, and we're missing one of the outputs that we want to add on to it, right? So we're sending, ideally, 40 rods per minute in here. 10, 20, 30, and 40. So we've got 20 left over. So what we're going to do is build 2 assemblers that can now start making a little bit of reinforced iron plates and a little bit of rotors just over there in the distance. And we're going to... Well, let's hop down and then assign it. So the one on the left can be the one that takes in the rods, so that'll be the rotors and screws. And this one is going to take in screws and plates, right? So remember the plates were here, the rods were over there. So this should work kind of nicely. So we can just basically say that From here, we'll drag out a belt somewhat straight and just move it to about here, and then send that in. So that is now 20 per minute rods traveling along and going in here, and it needs 20 per minute. So we've just managed to work that out just nice, haven't we? So we'll just give a little power pole right there between these two machines. So they're both powered now. Okay, so to finish this one off, it needs, if we have a double check of that number, it needs 100 screws per minute. We actually can't even do that, really, because we don't have a belt capable of it. So what we have here is 40 on each machine. So 4, 8, 12, 16. Well, we could combine that one, and then half of this one, and that would be our 100. So let's do that. So we'll get our merger. I'll just start it a little bit more tucked in, because we're a bit tight for space on the side. So maybe about there. Another merger. Just try to get it in line there. And this one could be a splitter, splitting out both directions. So we'll start with this. That goes into a splitter, and we can assume the 40 then becomes 20. This adds 40 to it. This adds 40 to it. And then that will basically just roll in there. Now if we start it from this angle, the belts will be a bit more straight. Cool. So we won't be able to fully supply it just yet, but for now that's a good start. The last thing then would be this one, right? There's just 40 coming out of here, plus the 20 here. That'll give us 60. You guessed it, we need 60 in here. So it needs 60 screws per minute. So we can do that. So let's try that right now. It's going to be a little awkward bending this around, but let's just try with a merger. Ooh, I'm out of iron plates. Let me just go grab some. Alright, so a merger right about there again. And we take in the 40, we take the 20, and then we bring this along with us, maybe to just about here. And then we send it in. So there we go, that's the second line of screws going in that way, and that should be nicely balanced. Now here, we've got 40 iron plates per minute. We can check how much we need. We need 30. So we could do a splitter on one of these, if we want to be exact. So maybe something like this. And then we'll grab a merger and add it here. So this would be 20 in there, 20 in there, 10 across, and 30 straight in. Now that leaves us with here, you know, 10 coming out. That's not going anywhere. But if we just make a container, just wherever, doesn't really matter where, and send that in, maybe we could try to be a little bit nicer. So we'll send it up and over using a lift. Alright, there's the extra 10. So we're making just 10 iron plate per minute. But now we're at least making reinforced iron plate. We're making 5 per minute. And here we're making 4 rotors per minute. Or we will once we increase the belt speed, which we'll do very soon actually. So the last thing then would be to get one last assembler between these two. Send one input in there, and another input in there, and set this to be smart plating, because it takes in the plates and the rotors, and it takes half of the outputs of each. This is, well, actually less than half of this. We'll have 3 left over. And then similarly here, it'll take 2. So again, what we could do very quickly is just add 2 storage containers. So we'll add a splitter on this side, and a splitter on this side. Not that we need to store this stuff up, but I guess there's no harm in it, right? For now, anyway. So that gives that an outlet. And then similarly, this will give this one an outlet. So now we've got somewhere to go to kind of pick up all the resources that we want. We've also got our power line here. We'll just connect this into there. And there we go. That's smart plating now. So let's get back to the milestones at hand and complete obstacle clearing and the next few milestones, and then we'll be making smart plating in the background, which, by the way, we only need 50 to complete this phase entirely. Now the MAM is completed yet again. Another hard drive has been scanned. Ooh, 6 extra inventory slots. I'll go with that. You don't need inventory as much as you used to back in the day, but early game? Sure, I'll take it. Alright, we'll throw in another hard drive. That's that streamer luck right there. Okay, so 500 screws, 200 cable, and a little bit of concrete. Obstacle clearing. So this one's an interesting one too. Solid biofuel can now be made, a chainsaw, and extra inventory slots yet again. We'll make some of this stuff. Actually, we can make the chainsaw right now. Why not? Because I don't have enough iron plate. Alright, so now we can actually make ourselves an equipment workshop, and inside of here we could do portable miners, the object scanner, a chainsaw, so we just unlocked that. Let's get one of these going. And this requires solid biofuel to operate. I'll build an object scanner as well while I'm here. So, solid biofuel is made using some of this, so we'll just take that really quickly. And we'll switch this around to, say, solid biofuel. Alright, so I've got about 22 solid biofuel. That should be enough for a little while. So what I basically plan on doing is we want to head out into the lake again. And we want to look for these spindly looking, whatever they are, tree things. And we want to cut those down. Alright, so this one here looks like a prime candidate. Let's give it a crack. Now, we also just got mycelia from that, so that's something we can advance in the MAM a bit later too. And now we can kind of gather biomass much faster. In big chunks, and it picks up all the wood in the area around the tree as well, so it's super good. Now, if you want to make this go far, which we do, it would be ideal to make it into solid biofuel first. Now, instead of just going into a container that's not really doing anything, we could start converting it into solid biofuel, as it does make 60 per minute. So we'll just hold this in the center, like so. Send that in that way, select solid biofuel, send that in, and send that in. So now, once we hook up power, of course, we need to find a power line. There we go. Now our central sort of constructor will be making solid biofuel, which will roll into these guys. So I might slowly, because we're right on the edge, just do a little replacement myself, right? So if we just give them a little bit each, it should buy us enough time. Alright, there we go. So our 60 per minute is now rolling along and going into each biomass burner. Bear in mind, it's going to try and fill these two first before it gets to the other ones, sort of. So you might end up with a trip, as we are pretty close to the edge now of where we can kind of be. It should be okay, I think, but you never know if you run short on the ones in the end. So you can always help it along with a little bit of manual crafting, or just even feeding one of them with regular biomass for a while until they get full. Something like that can kind of help it out. Alright, another hard drive just completed. Let's check it out. And we got the bolted frame, or fused wire. I'm going to leave this here, so that's another tactic you can do. I can either rescan it and see what else we get, or just leave it there. I like this recipe. I might leave it for later, and we could just run another one right now. I was just going to quickly check if there was anything else we could get right now. Alright, so now we've got the mycelia tree in the MAM. We can actually make biomass from mycelia if we wanted to, if we felt like we were in a tough spot. Seeing as I have some stages already, I'm just going to unlock this as well. Medicinal properties. It lets us make medicinal inhalers from them later on, I think. Yeah, so if you can combine them with some of the other things, you can start making medicinal inhalers again. Fabric will be good to go down, and then you can get the parachute and stuff, so we'll be getting there soon enough. We still have some milestones to clear off, so jump pads will be next. 300 iron plates, 150 cable, and 50 rotors. So we picked up a bunch of rotors, so we're looking good there. We've got loads of cable. The iron plates I'm a little low on. We're only making 10 per minute because we're making smart plating right now. But, give it a bit of time, it should be okay. Can always do a little bit of thieving as well from the machine, because I don't mind. Let's see what we've got. 111, there we go. Alright, jump pads, ready for liftoff. Next up, the Resource Sync Bonus Program. Oh yes. I think Logistics Mark II might be more important for us right now, so we'll target that one next. So another 300 plates, we've got everything else. So it should be easy enough, and we can do it in about 4 minutes. I'm gonna go grab a bit more biomass. Alright, I figured it's time. We're going to build the space elevator. This is going to be a temporary placement. We'll just take it down when we need to, but this allows me just to feed in the smart plating almost directly into one of the inputs here, and we can just watch it ticking up in the background. We've already made 33, so quite a bit, actually, already. And yeah, it actually would just go straight in, but we'll guide it along the sand there. Oh, I'm just slightly low on iron plates. But there she is, the first phase of the space elevator, and our smart plating is making its way over. Now, After we complete this first phase, I will decide a placement for this that will be permanent, and we'll build a base around it so we can really feel like we have a permanent place here in the desert. Alright, let's connect the rest of that in. So now we can watch it trickle on up in the top right corner, which is one of the best things to do in the game. Alright, so there we go. The first smart plating has just arrived. It's going to unlock tier 3 and 4. It doesn't actually need power. And it'll be just a matter of time before we produce all 50. Also in the process of gathering up some iron plates so that we can then do Logistics Mark II and upgrade our belts so that we can balance everything. Ooh, another hard drive has been completed. And this time we have the Caterium wire or the copper rotor. Not really in love with either of these recipes, but I'll let you guys tell me what I should do. Rescans or leave them there for later. For now, I'll leave them there until we see what you guys say. Alright, so we've got the iron plates. It's time to finish Logistics Mark II. This is now going to allow us to balance all of the machines that we currently have, except maybe the biomass ones. So now, instead of 60 per minute, we can do 120 per minute, but we do need to supply it with reinforced iron plates. But we do automate that, so it's only a matter of time before you just build it up, you know? So let's get to it. Alright, so one of the first things that we can actually upgrade is the solid biofuel that's here actually requires 120 to come in order to consistently run, which is why you're seeing it at about 50% right now. Not really sure how it got over 50%, but if we give it a Mark II belt there and here, then out of here, with the wood going in 60 per minute, 300 is attempting to come out per minute, so it can do 120 per minute no problem, and it can roll in there at the rate that it needs to. So this machine should ramp up to 100% and stay at it, as long as it's being fed all the time. So that's the first one done. Now, the next machines that required the 120 per minute treatment was these ones. If you remember, 20 was breaking off here, combining with 40, and then combining with another 40 and going into that machine over there. So that's now 120 per minute, when it only needs 100 per minute, so that's totally fine. The other lane required 60 per minute, so that should be totally fine now. So that just means that this machine won't fluctuate anymore. It should now consistently build up to 100% yet again. Alright, so here we are at the concrete, the final kind of bit that we need to upgrade to 120 per minute. So it's doing 120 per minute. We've only got a 60 belt, so we'll make that a Mark II. That's a 120 belt now. Now it's been split between two machines. So, it's a bit awkward, because it makes 120 limestone, but it requires 45 per minute in each machine. So how do we work that out? Well, 120 is what we make, divided by an intake of 45. It means we can supply 2.666 recurring machines. So you can't have 0.6 of a machine, so we'd obviously have to have at least 3, but we could have more. Let's just pop this in brackets, and then say, we'll divide it by 3 machines, right? We'll do 3. And that requires the machine to run at 0.888888 and so on recurring percent. So if we just times this by 100 to make it a percentage number kind of that we can use, instead of the 0 at the beginning, now it's just the 88 at the beginning. We'll copy this. We'll build another constructor aiming out the same way. If I can just line that up kind of okay. And we'll feed this in there. Add concrete. Now we have the clock speed accessible to us, so we'll just get rid of this and paste in that number that we just copied. Hit enter, and then you get your 88.888 recurring percent. So we're making 13.33 per minute. We'll copy this. And by the way, it's got no power, which is why it's not receiving. I guess I need another power line. Alright, so now it should start putting stuff out. We can also combine that back up on the same merger. Alright, now we need to just assign that to the other one. So what we can do is just go Control-C, copy, and then Control-V, paste. Now what you'll notice is in the bottom left, I just got given limestone. When you paste in a recipe, even if it's the same thing that was being used before, it always gives you back the inventory. Bit annoying, but it's a really good feature when you don't have the machines on already. But either way, you can just throw back in the limestone, they'll just keep running. So now, they should be running totally fine. If we just hop up here. So now we've got 120 rolling out, splitting 3 ways, so 4, 8, 12, 40 on each belt, so Mark 1 is fine for those. Going into 3 constructors, each one now underclocked to 88.8 recurring percent. These should now continuously run and ramp up to 100%. You can actually see that here it now says 40 per minute. So it's awesome, right? That's how we do it. now we're just about to finally see our space elevator get its final 2 parts and allow us to complete phase 1. It's just a matter of waiting for the final bit of smart plating to make its way down there. This should also become 100% in due time as well, because this should now be getting everything it needs, I think. So we'll have to wait and see. And the same with the other one over there, the rotors. Alright, so it's got 49. This is our 50th piece right here. Now we're going to keep this running and keep these. These are going to be used later down the line for something else. Not for a while, but we're going to be rebuilding this factory on foundations in the future. But at least now you know the exact layout of everything. And I'll just hand that layout again in future, along with the save file, of course, so that people can see how things have maybe changed. But we're going to be popping this onto foundations soon enough. And there we go. Just like that, our milestone is completed, the freighter has come back, and we're ready to seal the cargo and send it. Project assembly. Alright, upcoming milestones, exciting features, many more things. Personal transportation, a favorite of mine. We're going to be using a lot of roads, a lot of vehicles. We need versatile framework and automated wiring to get to the next phase. You can do it, indeed. Alright. Deliver to project assembly. Let's do this thing. And there we go, just like that. Platform is being built. The first phase is finished. Alright, Ada I'm sure is super happy with us. And straight away it just lets you know that you're going to need 1,000 smart plating now. We're going to need 1,000 versatile framework and 100 automated wiring. So we can just let that continue to roll in. It chips away at what we need ultimately anyway, before we can provide the other stuff. But yep, in the next episode we'll be putting it onto foundations, putting it in a more dedicated place that we can then send multiple things in the future. And for now, I'd like to just finish off that last milestone, which was the awesome sync program. Alright, so the last of the wire, the last of the iron plate. Boom. And that's it. That is all of Tier 1 and Tier 2 done. Next up will be coal power. Once we get that up and running, we can take a breather. No longer are we at the behest of biomass power. And we can then put down our foundations and actually build properly. So coal power is going to be up next. Something I just remembered is the constructor that takes in wood to make biomass. We can now underclock this so that it only makes 120 per minute. Therefore, it will no longer stop-start constantly. It'll stay pretty much the same. So we should have, generally speaking, a pretty clean power line now. For the most part, 1 or 2 buildings might be fluctuating a little bit. But I'll get on top of that. Ultimately, it's much cleaner than it was before. So that's going to have to be it for today. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. If you made it this far, thank you so much. Remember, you can check for the save file, blueprints, and more by checking the description. And if you're a channel member, you can get the next video early. Thank you.